So our next presenter, isn't this like the 9th time in this convention you've been up here? You have to read your bio every time. Do you have a new bio since you last were up here? Jen Sorensen, her cartoons have appeared in The Village Voice, The Daily Kos, Ms. Magazine, The Progressive, The LA Times, and on NPR. She has won the Association of Alternative News Weeklies Award, and to the delight of so many of us in the business, was a finalist for the 2012 Her Block Prize, which is really totally cool. And that's Jen right there, and soon she'll be right here. You want this one?
Thank you, sir. Well, let's give this a try. Hello. So, I wanted to thank everyone who came out for the literary death match last night. That was a lot of fun, and just wanted to let you know I stole Keith's medal from him in the dead of night. I don't think he knows it yet. All right, so I went to the Democratic National Convention last week, as probably just about any of you who have talked to me here have heard. Just to prove that I did it, here's the tote bag. You can see it's a lovely, sort of smaller, on the smaller side this year, but there it is, just to prove to you that I was there. And so I covered the Denver convention in 2008, and I had such a great time at that. I decided I wanted to do exactly the same thing. And what I had done there was I had gotten press credentials through my local alt weekly, CVille Weekly, in Charlottesville, Virginia. And as it turned out, those were great press credentials. You could go just about anywhere and not be hassled. And so I just wanted to reduplicate that experience. And as it turned out, this time didn't quite have the magic of Denver 2008, but it was still a pretty interesting time. This year, actually, what I did was I was blogging for both CVille Weekly and the Austin Chronicle, and tweeting and really whatever I could do. And they put together a storify of my tweets, which, if you haven't heard of that, it kind of combines your tweets and photos, and I recommend doing that if you ever try to do something like this. Okay, so here's my first tweet. At the airport, waiting a flight to the DNC. Armed with laptop, smartphone, dumb phone, scanner, digital camera, and opera binoculars. I'm on it. And I was very well prepared. So here's the streets of Charlotte. And I swear those barriers just bred overnight and kept expanding until the last day it was almost impossible to get around. Security was super tight, even harder than Denver, I would say. And walking around, we have a sand sculpture of Barack Obama. This was provided by the fine people of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Personally, I thought that this looked a little demonic. I wasn't... He kind of looks like he's cackling. So, I don't know. As a cartoonist, I have my own, I'm a little uptight about these things. Walking around the convention center where people were picking up their press credentials, there was a lot of swag for sale, and we have these Obama yo-yos, which, I wasn't sure about the symbolism there, if you're trying to portray consistency and reliability, and just a little up and down, There were these very expensive hoodies for $65 each. I think maybe they're part fundraising hoodies. I don't know. There were these LGBT Obama Pride shirts, which it was kind of cool to see because I think you really wouldn't have seen that at a convention in the past, or certainly, not a few years ago. And it was very cool to be present at this convention where gay marriage and the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was just out in the forefront, out of the closet, as it were. And so it was very, very cool to witness that moment in history. And if you were ever curious what the media barnyard looks like, they're stowed away down in the bowels of a separate building from where most of the convention happens. And this is where the hometown rag was stationed. All sorts of international newspapers down there. I just thought it was cool that Tokyo Shimbun was there. I had to Google how to pronounce that, and I don't know if that was correct. But, there were lots of members of the international press. I was talking to one British reporter who had come from Tampa at the RNC, and she was, I wasn't going to reveal her gender. Okay, well, anyway, she was saying how she was trying to be very diplomatic and talking about the difference between the two, and then she's like, "Oh, the people at the RNC they were just a bunch of tossers," and hey, I was free to be completely biased in my coverage though. So this would be a typical DNC media person with bags under your eyes from 4 hours of sleep. A lot of people had to commute from South Carolina, including people for the Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, a lot of major media organizations. They were commuting to a little town called Rock Hill, which made me feel very, very lucky that I only had to stay 2 miles away in a friend's apartment for free. Shout out to JP. Thank you for hooking me up with that. And yeah, it was just a constant struggle to keep your gear charged and to keep yourself charged. And then there was this other problem that I faced, which I did not anticipate, and that would be the cat at the apartment where I was staying. Was the most violently loving cat that I've ever met. And this was my view whenever I was trying to work at home. And this cat would just literally not get off my laptop. Really one of the biggest challenges I faced at the convention. So here we are, it's the next day. Not joking, it was at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, which is also where Fox News was set up, conveniently. And it was led by a pill pack, this giant human pill pack, which, I thought that was a pretty well done mascot. And there's Sandra Fluck, who, who Rush Limbaugh called a slut because she just, spoke up for wanted contraception coverage from her insurance. And she was there to give a real nice slutty speech. She just, totally slutified the whole thing. Here I am with the human pill pack. And of course, as it did every 10 minutes in Charlotte, it rained. I mean, it poured every 10 minutes. Every time you wanted to step out and do anything, it was pouring. So Planned Parenthood, true to their motto that you should always, bring protection, they were issuing these pink ponchos, these plastic pink ponchos that made us all look like condoms. And they just busted them out right at the end there. Here I am in my poncho condom, riding the bus. I think the people riding the bus with me saw me taking this picture, like, what is that girl doing? Here's one that I think Ben Sargent can appreciate. I was so glad to see his slideshow. So right after the Planned Parenthood rally, I walked straight into the middle of an Occupy Wall Street confrontation with the cops. Basically, they were trying to leave their sort of free speech zone and do a march, an unofficial march, up to the convention center. And right as I arrived, and the cops were like, just go right ahead. I was like, can I really go in the middle of this? And go on. And so they had just agreed, I guess, to do this march as long as they stayed on the sidewalk. And it was just a phalanx of cops the whole way up the sidewalk, penning them in. And so I just got swept up right in the middle of it. Here they are at the very beginning of the march. Now, I would say there was not a huge Occupy presence. There was a larger march a couple days earlier that I was not at, and I think that got about 1,500 people. This was maybe a couple hundred or so. This was a very anti-Obama, anti-DNC crowd. The main issue here was protesting the drone strikes. And so you can see there's the, stop the drone killings. And I just sort of like this shot, the juxtaposition of the, inside NASCAR with the Occupy Wall Street protesters marching down the street. I really like this picture because I think as they approached the convention center, they encountered Obama supporters. And there were some arguments. This one was, fairly subdued, but I just like the shot of the, this young Barack Obama type guy and then, the hippie with the dreads. I just thought it really said a lot about the culture clash that was occurring right outside the convention center. Then you had an Iraq war vet arguing with another Occupy protester. You can see he has a little tiny pig snout on his hat. So, the war vet was saying, "Oh, well, I'm not going to listen to you until you've seen what I've seen." And then it started to pour again. And I just kind of like this shot. There was a guy in a wheelchair who had a pretty cool poster. So then it really starts pouring, and just all hell is breaking loose, and that's when I tweeted this. So I ducked into the convention center and dried off. There were some other protesters that were not affiliated with the Occupy movement. I am a sucker for anyone in a pig suit. And these were PETA protesters. I later saw them with their pig heads off. It was 2 young women in there. It must have been extremely hot. This guy, outsourcing is the worst entitlement. He was on his own right outside where the press credentials were being distributed. I got stuck at a bus stop during yet another thunderstorm with this guy. And if you look close, he considers himself a poet, and he was biking around both Tampa and Charlotte with this sign. I'm not going to read the whole poem, but it basically mentions that, in the Republican Party, there's a Mormon, a Catholic, Protestant's a Jew, but the common religion is money. And at first, when I saw, when you see Jew on a sign with like a guy with a shaved head, and I was like, what's this guy about? But really, he was just there to protest Republicans at both conventions. And these guys were just shilling their book, but and in the very background, there's Medea Benjamin, who's the leader of Code Pink. At night, I saw these guys working a food kiosk, and I could not resist taking a picture of Nader's Bar and Grill. So I actually went up to him, and I was like, so do you know about Ralph Nader? And, might not be the best symbolism here at a Democratic National Convention. First, they were like, oh, well, I thought he was kind of a liberal guy, and that would be okay. And I was like, well, after what happened in 2000, I don't know. So then they started taking me seriously, like, guys, we can't wear these shirts tomorrow. So I altered their entire business model. This is not Sarah Palin. This would be a guy who is a delegate from Alaska, from, the town was called something like Umalalakleet, but I think I put an extra syllable in there. He had flown 2 days from this town to 700. It's like a fishing village on the west coast of Alaska, and he was on a tribal council in the Alaska legislature, and now he's a delegate. And a very, very cool guy. Gave me an Alaska pin, which I will always treasure. And these are the people who were from San Antonio, and they were the Alamo-Obama crowd who were there to support Mayor Julian Castro, who was speaking that night. There were quite a lot of people from Texas there, actually. And it seemed like every state or city that could make a pun on their name and put Obama in their name did it. Like, there was Alamo-Obama and Ohama-Obama, and anyway. Getting to the convention itself was a little bit of a challenge sometimes because they weren't super clear on where the security line was. And so I spent a long time just wandering around trying to find where the metal detectors were just to get in. And at one point I saw crowds rushing in one direction. I'm like, oh, that must be it. But it turned out it was only Chris Matthews doing his show on MSNBC. So here we are, it's the day of Obama's speech, and at this point the city is completely militarized, just under total lockdown. Choppers whirring overhead, Hummers, bomb squad trucks, just impossible to go anywhere. And so I did miraculously make it to the convention center at one point, and they had this little thing set up where people could pose with the big Obama O. Here's a delegate with a good hat. See, I think without the tea bags, it looks okay. And this is Tawana Kadien. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's actually a local. She's running for Congress in my district in Texas. I recently moved to Austin, Texas. And like I said, there's a huge number of people from Texas there. And, Texas has rapidly changing demographics. The Latino population is growing while there's, the older white population is shrinking. And there's a lot of people moving from the coasts to places like Austin. It's becoming a tech corridor. So I really got the sense at this convention that Texas is going to be in play even sooner than I thought. I mean, they were just giving a lot of love to Texas at this thing. And so, turning purple. Who knew? Texas. So this was my view from the periodical press gallery. And, this is exactly the same place I was last time, which is you're pretty high up there, but you have a good view of the stadium, of the podium. except for the butts of 1,000 journalists squeezing past you as you try to do anything. And so I really wanted to do some sketches. I was tweeting a lot, and I was trying to blog and keep up with all that. But, when you're up that high, it's so dark and so cramped. And then, the butts. I could not draw anything up there. But I did have my opera glasses with me. And it allowed me to pick up on little details like this that maybe you weren't getting at home watching on TV. This is another view. The Democrats do a really good job of just decorating a stage. I've got to say, I will hire them for my my next wedding. Hopefully there won't be one, but I think that looks really good. Then I tweeted. This was my most popular tweet of the whole thing. For the record, my ideal ticket would be Elizabeth Warren. And some people raised some concerns about having cloned presidents and vice presidents. And here I am with the entire Obama family. If you look very closely, down on the stage at about 10 o'clock, that is the entire Obama clan. The only photo I have with a president. So that's it. That's my Twitter handle. Well, if I have lots of time, I could take some questions, or if you need to keep things rolling.
I didn't look at I don't know how much time that was.
I'll let you keep it.
All right, well, thank you. I'm sure everybody appreciates it. Jen, I have a pig suit in my room.